Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Graham Lick and Mac Lane podcast. We are back with more ACC Under Review. This is episode 6 of that series, episode 257 of the Graham Lick and Mac Lane pod. So as I always say, if you missed any, there's a lot of episodes out there. But Mac, we are doing a two-state show. I'm up here in a hotel. So I don't have my headphones, which is totally on me. I had a real boomer moment. I just completely forgot them. But Mac has his lighting. He's got his headphones. He's ready to go in the home studio.
You know, I'm just doing my best over here, trying to survive, trying to thrive. You know, just trying my best. It's a nice trade-off when you have the bad internet. And you know, we actually found the solution when I was at my parents'. We did find the solution, so yes. That was good. I was on the wrong Wi-Fi. I was on the like garage Wi-Fi. I was in the house. Silly me. Who has two Wi-Fis at their house? That seems like a weird thing there by Mama Mac. But yeah, excited to continue this. It's been really fun. You know, this mini series is one of my favorite things that we do, just getting to really hone in on one team per episode. This episode, the Pitt Panthers. My guy, Pat Bostick, is joining us, the color analyst for the radio network there at Pittsburgh. Just a really cool guy. Played ball there, as you all know, played quarterback for Pitt. Also works in the development department. So some of you might have got some calls, you know, from Pat. Need some money. Okay, we got to keep getting this thing going in the right direction. But yeah, it's been really fun. Before we dive into Pitt, KG, can you tell us a little bit about our Rock'em Sox partner?
Indeed. First of all, do not decline Pat's calls. Pitt fans, make sure you answer. You want to be involved there. And I want to send out this challenge.
That's right.
Last year, in our ACC Under Review series, Pitt was our most listened to episode. Now, Pitt was coming off the ACC title, etc. So, Pitt fans, can you do it again? That's a good question. I think right now, early returns, I think Florida State is leading when you combine YouTube views and, of course, podcast listens. So, Clemson fans, you know, what's up? NC State, we put that up Friday. We'll see. I think we maybe should do an extra sock giveaway to the fan base.
Okay, I like that.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm all in with that. Absolutely.
Yes. Speaking of socks, we have teamed up with Rock'em Socks, the world's largest sock store. Shop from over 10,000 plus exclusive sock designs, including college football teams. They have every ACC team, and it's not just football. They've got basketball socks. They've got, you know, your ACC paired with Star Wars or whatever you want. We've got Graham Lick and Mac Lane socks that are going out to some special winners on Twitter. They've got entertainment properties. They've got the superhero dudes. I also was looking. They have different TV shows. If you're a Ted Lasso fan, they've got Ted Lasso socks. If you're a Friends fan, Friends socks. You know, the real television, not the superhero stuff, Mac.
That's right, KG. And our listeners can get 20% off. All you have to do is go on to rockemsocks.com, type in our code GML20. Get all the socks you want in the whole world, and then type that in. We're going to save you some money. Really appreciate you guys. Who knows? Maybe you'll find your next pair of lucky game socks that just takes your team to the next level. Rock'em can help you do that. Rockemsocks.com. And again, GML20. We're going to save you some money there. But let's get to Pat Bostick. Really enjoyed this interview. We're talking all thing Pitt Panthers. Let's go. Pat, welcome into the show, my brother. Super excited to have you join us today. Listen, the Pitt Panthers finished with a 9-win season, really capitalized at the end of the year. Izzy Abanikanda was a revelation. That defense was nasty. They finished second in the country with 48 sacks. Just to get started here, give us your thoughts on the entire season.
Yeah, it's great to be with you guys. Thanks for having me. You know, it was an interesting year, kind of a year of kind of a tale of two halves, if you will. Season started with a bang, you know, in the backyard brawl, and MJ Devonshire taking that pick 6 to the house. And then the Tennessee game, I thought was kind of a breakthrough game. That if you win that game, you're top 10, you're rolling. And unfortunately, you know, injuries at the quarterback position kind of derailed that hope. And I thought inconsistent quarterback play in the middle part of the year, despite Izzy just going off and the defense continuing to play at a high level, which they have really for 3-4 years now under Pat Narduzzi. They weren't able to get over the top, beat teams like Carolina, Louisville on the road, 2 road wins that you need to get if you're going to compete for a title. And but to finish with 5 straight, to win that bowl game, you know, against UCLA, you're really shorthanded, I thought was a sign of what's to come. And there's reason for optimism for sure. They've retooled in the offseason, and I think 20 wins in 2 years, obviously second to Clemson, in the ACC is something to be proud of and something to build off of.
Yeah, I think you'll take it for sure, especially after losing Kenny Pickett, who's just one of the greatest players in Pitt history. And we're seeing what he's doing with the Steelers. You mentioned the tale of two halves. At the end of October, the Panthers are 4-4 and back-to-back losses. Things aren't going great. But then you rattle off 5 straight wins. And Mac and I said the best ACC bowl win of the season was Pitt over UCLA. I mean, that was a good win. So in your estimation, Pat, being around the program, what led to this turnaround in November?
Well, I think, defensively, they continued to get after the quarterback. Takeaways were a big part of it. UVA, 2 pick sixes in the first 15 seconds or whatever it was.
Have you ever seen anything that was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Never. Tim Salem, our tight ends coach, told me that he was a part of a small college game in Arizona where there were 2 pick sixes and then a 3-and-out punt return for a touchdown in the first minute. So that would be the topper. I forget the school, but no, I've never been around it. But I would just say that the opportunistic defense, stingy defense, more explosion in the passing game. Jared Wayne had a 1,000-yard year and really did it in 7 games, which is impressive. I thought they got more consistent quarterback play, and this leaned on Izzy, and then Rodney Hammond started to come back a little bit towards the end of the year. That offensive line was terrific. But, it was really putting all the parts together and, playing, quality complementary football, which, they did at times early, lost it in the middle of the year, and then got a lot of confidence, going into the end of the year, and then obviously take a lot of confidence from beating a really explosive, talented UCLA team who was at full strength.
Yeah, and I just want to ask about the bowl game, just one more question there, because nobody was predicting that Pitt was going to go there and win. I think not Vegas, not anybody. I assume you were out there with them, Pat. Tell us more about the mindset of the Panthers heading into that game and how they got the victory.
I think if there's one thing about Pat Narduzzi, he can assume the underdog mentality really well. And Pat's an underdog that will bite you. And that's what we love about him here in Pittsburgh. And I think, there was a lot of chatter about UCLA's got no opt-outs. They love football, all the things that, they're bulletin board material. And I think if you watch the guys, I was there all week, if you watched our players, there was just an energy and pep about being there. They knew what kind of opportunity it was. They knew that they beat this team. They're in the top 25 for the second straight year, something Pitt hasn't done since 81-82.
Wow.
20 wins in 2 years since 81-82. There's significance to that. And I think, this Pitt program cares about legacy, and they don't want to be slighted. And I thought, they had an opportunity on a national stage to prove that they're more than just Izzy Abanikanda and Kalijah Cansey. And they did that.
Yeah. And I think that was, man, just really impressive because, again, outsiders, people that rarely get to see, those glimpses of practices or meetings or locker room talk and all those different things. We see that, and it's like, man, all these guys are gone. They've got no shot. We saw UCLA all year, the production, the explosiveness, all those things you just pointed out. But the better team came together, and they found a way to win and got down and rallied back and then, marched down the field. Our boy Nick Patty, my gosh, finally gets his moment and, looked tremendous and led his team down the field, game-winning field goal, which is really cool to see that. And one of the best, again, games of the postseason, for sure the best in the ACC. We're going to talk about that defense. You keep bringing them up. We're all three offensive people. We're going to stay on that side of the ball here for a little bit. We saw a completely different-looking Pitt offense this year. These guys ran the ball like crazy, and part of that was just, again, you brought it up, the lack of ability at times, lack of consistency, probably a better word, than we've seen in recent years, especially with Kenny Pickett, but also because Izzy Abanikanda was really freaking good, and this offensive line blocked their tails off. So I knew he was going to take some steps forward, just natural kind of progression there. But, man, there's no way I expected what he did this year.
Yeah, it was I think with Frank Cignetti coming down from Boston College, I know Frank played for Frank at Pitt, knew what he wanted. He fit what Pat Narduzzi wanted coming off of Kenny Pickett, which was a return to some more balance. Lost Jordan Addison in the offseason. That was well documented. Needed to run the rock, control the clock, and establish the line of scrimmage. And they were able to do that from Jump Street. There was ebbs and flows in there, but the thing about Izzy is, he's going to have a successful NFL career because he can he can hit the home run. When he gets to the second level, he's a great one-cut runner. And when he gets to the second level and you're even, he's leaving. He's gone. And
Come on.
That's just the reality of it. They knew that coming out of, a small high school, up in New York, that he had breakaway speed, was a 100-meter guy. And, he was just terrific all year long. And I think those home run hitting runs, setting up the wide zone the way they did, it was only a matter of time where you were going to pick wrong on defense.
Right.
You were going to go over the top instead of coming underneath, and he was going to hit that cutback, and it's, good night, Irene. And he did that on more than one occasion.
Right. Well, how about that Virginia Tech game? I mean, how fun was that to call, for that to witness? Because it was just like he never ran out of gas. He until the very end of the game, this dude's breaking off 70-yard touchdown runs. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, I think the thing that was most fun, and Eric, you'll love this, given your background. I mean, it wasn't just one scheme. It was power, it was stretch, it was toss, it was wide zone, it was counter, it was all of it.
So were the coaches just closing their eyes and throwing like a dart on a board, saying, "Oh yeah, let's just try this, let's see what happens"? I
think when you got a guy that's feeling it like that, I know I have much respect for how difficult it is to call plays. When you got a guy that's feeling it like this in a line that just is begging to run the football, you pretty much dial up, any play number on that sheet, and you're going to be all right.
I love that, begging to run the football. And, it brings us to our next point here, because Izzy's moving on, as you mentioned, I think going to be sought after in the draft. And then you've got Rodney Hammond Jr., who's right there, ready to go. And this O-line could even be better this coming year than last year. So I know you're bringing in Phil Dracovic, and we're going to get to that, but I still feel like Pitt's going to have somewhat of a run-first mentality as we head into 23. Would you agree?
Totally. Yeah, I think that's their DNA. You look at this offensive line, and we talked about in the offseason, five of those 5 seniors coming back, they didn't play one snap together all year long.
Right, which is crazy. Such, excitement, expectation, and then, that happens. You're just like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus Minor was the only guy that played in every game, and he'll have a bright future as well. But, guys like Branson Taylor, Matt Gonsalves, Jake Cradle and Blake Zabovic are coming back. Some young guys that got, on rotation, Ryan Jacoby, Ryan Bear. This offensive line's big. They're athletic. Yeah. They're deep. Dave Borbley's done a great job, and they're going to return that group, and they're going to be bulls on parade up front, all year long. And I think, Rodney's a different runner than Izzy. It's one of the reasons I thought they were such a 1-2 punch, and it was a shame that Rodney got, tripped up early against West Virginia. But Rodney moves the pile, man. He's a guy that finds a crack and turns 2 into 8. He can hit the home run. I think that's going to be, off season, getting that lower leg 100% right. So he's ready for a more significant workload in 23, but he's going to be the guy. And, Sebo Flemister is a guy transferred from Notre Dame that gave him really good snaps this year. Daniel Carter's a young player that, has played some fullback and some short yardage. And obviously they picked up a local transfer and Derek Davis from LSU, who was a heck of a high school recruit. Not sure, which side of the ball he'll play, but, he's got athleticism and speed. So, Pitt has found a way over the years to produce great running backs. And, I think Rodney's the next one up.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see that. And again, you talk about scheme, you talk about all these things. I mean, it's who Pitt is. I know we took a little break there in that stint where we had a generational quarterback and we threw it all over the yard. But, man, I just think of the tough, gritty teams. And, even back in 17 or 18 when, the 2,000-yard rushers in the backfield. I mean, that's Pitt football to me. And so one guy that I think can aid that just with the things he's done, he's familiar with the coordinator, his running ability himself, and that's Phil Dracovic. I mean, when healthy, man, he's absolute dynamite. So I guess what are things that you have seen? What are things that Pitt fans should expect? And, maybe is this just his job walking in? Is there going to be a battle? Kind of touch on that whole situation for us.
Well, I think first of all, obviously Phil's track record is impressive. Obviously not the last couple of years he won it up at BC, and total respect for Jeff Hafley and that staff. Jeff was at Pitt when I played. Great guy. They had trouble protecting him, and obviously the thing that jumps off the page is his ability to break tackles and extend plays. And I think we saw that in the bowl game. The difference between Nick Patty and what Keaton Slovis was able to do was extend plays and move the chains with his feet. Bring the run element, the quarterback run element into play, to take care of that eighth defender. in the run phase. And I think Phil's going to be able to do that. I think Christian, Velou from Penn State is a guy that's going to compete. Velou, it depends who you ask how you pronounce his name, but I think he prefers Veyer, so we're going to go with that. But he's from north of the border, so we'll respect his wishes. But he's a guy that he's really talented, and he's not coming to Pitt to sit. So
True.
I think it's that room is transformed. Huge shout out to Frank Signetti, John DiBiaso, their quarterback quality control guy, who's done a great job. They've added talent, size, athleticism to that room, and it starts with Phil. Phil's going to be the guy that it's his homecoming. This is his last dance, and he's got an opportunity to do a Kenny Pickett, if you will. And I know he's all chips in, and the thing you love about it is having depth behind him. You don't have to be scared to run him.
That's right.
And I think, over the years you've seen that with a Trevor Lawrence or guys at different schools where they have such running ability, but you feel like you're playing with fire. Mm-hmm. I think with the depth that they've built in that quarterback room, they can certainly not throw caution to the wind, but be, very aggressive with the quarterback run phase and a quarterback movement.
Well, and it's interesting because you bring up Pickett, and I think people forget how mobile Kenny Pickett was, especially in his breakout season for Pitt. I mean, he was all over, and he already was, especially before the breakout year. He was more of that gritty kind of guy, or known as. And then, of course, he added, 35, 40 touchdown passes, whatever it was. So I think Jerk fits into that mold a good bit. And just speaking of the passing game in general, I think Pitt's going to be able to protect him better than BC. And we alluded to that. I think that's pretty clear. How do you see the passing game shaping up in terms of the weapons that will emerge for Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing you love about Phil, and one of the keys to the late season success for Pitt, was the ability to generate explosive plays down the field. Phil's proven that. Zay Flowers is an unbelievable talent, but I think Pitt has some young guys, Bob Means, Kanate Mumfield, guys that transferred in with promise, but we're only sophomores and first time playing in the ACC, a consistent Power 5 schedule, got better as the season went on, played well in the bowl game. I know they're looking to supplement, not only with the high school recruiting, some guys they brought in that I think they got 14 guys enrolled early. Guys like Lamar Seymour and some of the talented receivers, Izzy Polk from out west, that can come in as freshmen, but also looking in the transfer portal to add some immediate help, probably some size as well. But I'm also bullish, on Gavin Bartholomew, the tight end.
Yeah.
I think Gavin's a guy that, when he is a factor in the pass game, he's got run after catch ability, and I'll never forget that hurdle against Tennessee. And Phil has a history of obviously utilizing tight ends and very well, and did that at BC. And I think sometimes a quarterback just has an eye for that. There's quarterbacks that are more friendly to tight ends than others. I think Phil fits the former, not the latter.
Yeah, and it helps when you have a freak, like Bartholomew, that can just make you look so good, and just, it doesn't have to be a perfect pass, it doesn't have to be right on the money for him to catch it. He's got great range and just his ability. He's a really, really solid tight end. I'm with you. I'm pretty bullish on him as well. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. This is rare territory for us on this podcast, but we're going to talk about it because Pitt, it's just what they do year in and year out. Doesn't matter who's in, doesn't matter who's out. They find ways to do it. And it's weird for me to say this, and just correct me if I'm wrong here, Pat, or straighten me out here. But I had really, really high expectations for this defensive line. And it's weird for me to say that because the production was still there, but I just don't know if they maybe met what I thought. Am I crazy? Am I off?
I think they, production-wise, I mean, look at guys like Haba Baldonado, who you expected to have, 8, 10,
massive
sacks.
Yeah.
A little hampered by injuries. Got some more attention. Kalijah had a monster year, and I think Kalijah's impact could be measured more in non-production plays than just the attention he grabs. But I think you saw progress from guys like David Green, who continue to make plays. I think Deion Hayes has a chance to be a stud. But I would agree with you, Eric, that I thought I didn't feel like they were having the year that maybe they had in 20 with Patrick Jones and Rashad.
It was kind of like Clemson, man. I just thought Clemson and Pitt were going to have, bar none, the best defensive lines in the country. And it was just flashy. We saw times where whoa, that's it. But other times where, it's just, it just wasn't.
Yeah, I think one of the things about Pitt's defense, and Pat Narduzzi believes in that press quarter scheme, and he'll tell you what they're playing. and they get to third down, and it's a wild card, but they'll tell you what they're playing. They're going to line up the same. They'll have some tweaks here and there. I think there's something about it that just kind of morphs, to what they have so many different wrinkles, and guys are so familiar with what they do that they can be a bend but don't break team too. They prefer to just feast on you. But there were times this year where they played great red zone defense and got takeaways. I think they've got better secondary play. And Marquez Williams and MJ Devonshire are back. AJ Woods is back. I thought Hallett had a great year on the back end. So, they lean maybe a little bit more on that Servassier Dennis, back than they did in years past. And obviously they'll miss Servassier moving forward, Brandon Hill, Eric Hallett, but they've got a lot of depth back there. And, I'll never doubt Pat Narduzzi's defensive recruiting and talent. And I certainly won't doubt Charlie Partridge's ability to develop D linemen. And there's 4 or 5 guys in that room that no one knows about that are going to jump out. And we'll be talking about them as, the next wave of guys here pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. You read my mind there, because the way Pitt reloads, specifically on the D line, that you can count on it every year. I know you said there's 4 or 5 guys of names we will learn. Could you give us a few names that we need to watch out for on that D line?
Yeah, I'd start with Dayon Hayes. If I could put a clinic tape together of putting a tackle on skates and getting him moving backwards against his will, I think Dayon would be the featured teacher. He's really strong. He's got unbelievable twitch. He's big. He's a Pittsburgh City League kid. And I'm on the hype train for Dayon Hayes this year. I think this kid is going to be the next great one. He has the ability to. It's up to him to obviously go do it. Sam Okinola was a highly rated guy out of the Northeast that they were able to get on campus. He wears number 17, looks like Rashad Weaver. 6'5", long arms, fast, twitchy.
Come on, baby.
Really, really talented player. Inside, they've got some young guys inside. Aaron Donald's nephew, Elliot Donald, is a guy that got some snaps in the bowl game. Sean Fitzsimmons is a young kid from Central Valley High School. And then I think, David Green is a guy that, David Green, Devin Danielson have kind of been they've been the plugger opposite they've been the thunder to Kalijah's lightning.
Right.
I think David's ready to be the lightning. And it's amazing the freedom they give these D linemen. And depending on where you at, obviously if you're playing the nose, you're going to get doubled more than if you're playing the 3. And they're going to find a way to put those guys around. But, I would say that Dayon Hayes is a guy that everybody in the ACC, I'm sure offensive coordinators are aware of him, but I think he's a guy that's going to jump on the scene pretty quick.
Yeah, he has that ability, man. That twitch. We saw I think it was the Miami game. He had 3 sacks, and just his innate ability to wreak havoc. That's what I think about when I think of a Pitt defensive lineman, and he's got it. So excited to see, can he take that next step and understand it's his show if he wants it, and all the attention that comes with it, the lineage of Pitt defensive linemen. It's all there. It's all there for the taking. Like you said, you just got to go do it. You mentioned some of those great leaders, specifically on the defensive side, that are moving on and unbelievable players. We saw that this year specifically, but who will be missed most? Can you touch on a couple of those guys and just who they are as Pitt men, but also as football players?
Yeah, you got to start with Servassier Dennis. You had a C on his chest last year. I'll never forget the no doubt about that. Forget the shovel 6 against Clemson. And
all right, I didn't ask about 2 years ago. I asked about this year.
Sorry,
come on,
I had to go there, man. I had to go there.
I was.
Now his instincts, his leadership, his understanding of that defense. He's the computer chip in the middle there, and it's going to be Shane Simon. I think is the guy that can move in there. They've got some young kids, Kyle Lewis, Brandon George, that can play. And I think another guy is Eric Hallett. Eric Hallett was much maligned early in 2021. The Western Michigan loss that probably prevented Pitt from being a top playoff. He was in great position, but that field safety position for Pitt is the most difficult position on the field. It is really a third corner playing at 6-7 yards off, and against slot receivers that are talented and have a 4-way go, especially in the RPO game. But man, did he have a great 2022? And it started with the ACC championship game in 2021. Right. So they'll miss him a lot, and they're going to rely upon some younger guys, Javon McIntyre and company, to fill that void. And it's a steeper learning curve at that position. Not as much mentally, but also in terms of your coverage ability, and also obviously you got to have a short memory because you really are a corner there.
Yeah, and I that's what I love about, man, I think of, the two most difficult positions in football: quarterback, number one, and then defensive back, specifically corner. Like it is so, you're going backwards. I mean, it's not natural. Offensive line, I know we go backwards, but you're going backwards against freaks, against absolute dogs that, as you said, have four-way goes. I mean, you don't know any idea where they're going. And this Pitt defense, they rely on it, man. I mean, that's who they are. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. That press man that we see, I mean, it just aggravates people. And it's something where you've got to be ready. When you come to Pitt, you have to know you're on an island. That's just the way it's going to be, and you have to be ready. You have to figure it out. Okay, we kind of touched on a lot of different things for this team. Let's talk expectations, man. Let's talk about 23. There's no divisions. There's new scheduling model. And a lot of people are excited about this, but just wanted your thoughts on what's the ceiling for Pitt? What do we expect from them in 23?
I think they'll probably get some, tempered preseason expectations just based on, what they continue to lose in terms of, high-level talent. Mm-hmm. But the pieces are there to be ultra competitive and they're going to be in every game just based on their style of play. And it's going to come down to explosives and the turnover battle, and that's what we saw this year. I think Phil Dracovic brings an exciting element to this offense. I think their schedule is one that lends itself to a lot of attention nationally. I mean, you look at it, you're going to open up with Wofford, but obviously then it's, Cincinnati at home, at West Virginia. You're at Notre Dame.
Let's go.
Dracovic going to Notre Dame to play. You got Florida State at home. You got North Carolina at home. So two of the preeminent quarterbacks in the ACC, probably the two best going into the year. Yeah. In Acrisure Stadium. You take care of business in those games. I mean, you're right there. So I expect this to be a tough Pitt football team, a team that, really embodies the mentality that Pat Narduzzi wants. And they're going to have to do it by committee because there's not a Kalijah Cansey. There's not an Izzy Abanikanda in preseason. But I think, recent memory would indicate that those guys are going to emerge. And I expect this team to go into conference play battle-tested like they did last year. It's going to come down to those 4 or 5 plays, those sequences in games that are the difference between, going back to a conference championship game or, fighting for that 8th, 9th win.
Yeah, it'd be plenty of opportunity for the Panthers, man. Cannot wait to see it. Love this team. Love the culture that they have in place. And I think 2023 is going to surprise some people. So thank you so much, man. This was so much fun. Great having you on talking about Pitt.
Appreciate you guys having me. You guys have a good one.
Thanks again to our guy, Pat, for joining us. His insight was great. Again, I mean, this is one of the things that we love about this series is we are getting the guys that truly know this program. He was out there with Pitt at the Sun Bowl for a week. And if you had asked him what to do about that Vegas number, he would have said take Pitt to cover, okay? Because he understood that Pitt was ready to go. I think my favorite line of this whole episode was when my guy said, Pat Bostick said, Pat Narduzzi is an underdog and he will bite you. That is a heck of a line. To me, that sums up Pat Narduzzi, what he has built at Pitt. He does not get enough credit. We try to give him credit, but I think nationally he doesn't. And 20 wins in 2 years. The Pitt was the program that knocked Clemson off. It wasn't Florida State. It wasn't North Carolina. It wasn't Miami. It was Pitt. And I think they deserve more credit for that. I'm very, very intrigued to see how this Dracovic situation goes. We've seen one-year quarterbacks work out well. We've seen one-year quarterbacks not work out well. But the fact that he's paired with Frank Cignetti, I think, will make a huge difference. And just the O-line insight, that's something Pitt fans should be really excited about. And honestly, Dracovic should be excited about because I think he's going to line back.
It's going to be a little bit different for him, not having to run around like crazy, more like what he was used to at Boston College. This year, as we all know, was just such an anomaly with all those injuries. But I digress. Big shout out again, like you said, to Pat. Just so much insight that we would have no idea about. I thought the UCLA thing that you just touched on, I thought that was the biggest kind of insider type thing, just the vibe of the team and just, all the disrespect that was kind of thrown their way, even by us. I mean, we picked UCLA to win that game. We might have picked Pitt to cover. But I think at the end of the day, they were just ready, and the better team won. And the excitement that is going to lead into winter, the momentum that that's going to have, it can't be undervalued. It can't be stated enough that, that's going to help them tremendously. And I'm excited to see what this new, offense is going to look like, assuming Phil Jurkovec is the guy. I do think, a lot like Pat said, it's going to be very run-oriented still. I think that Ronnie Hammond Jr. is going to have a really big opportunity to be the guy. That Tennessee game, he went nuts. People kind of forget he was the starter going into that Tennessee game, or West Virginia, and then got injured. So I think we're going to see some big numbers for him. I think some people might have forgotten, what he did when he did get his opportunity. So I think he's going to be just fine. I'm interested to see, can the pass catchers take another step? I know Bartholomew is good, maybe great, but how can everyone else elevate? I think that's going to be a big time, challenge for Pitt this offseason to just get those guys right. And, Pat said, they're young and maybe a little inexperienced, but they've got to figure it out, and they've got to be able to help him get the ball downfield, have those explosive plays. And lastly, of course, that defense. It's just, no matter what, I know the Pitt defense is going to be good. I know it's going to get after the quarterback. It's just going to be who's next. And Deion Hayes sounds like the guy. That was kind of the guy I had circled. We'll see, though, KG. I can't wait to see what this team looks like. Hopefully we get to go up there again for fall camp and see those guys, maybe even a little bit of spring ball, just so I can get my kind of litmus test of where I think they're going to be early and often. But that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Another great episode of Gramlich and Mac Lane. Big shout out to Pat Bostick joining us. We need you guys to go over to YouTube if you're not here already. Smash that subscribe button. Join us. It's been awesome to see the growth. You guys have been really coming in strong for us. We greatly appreciate that. Also, go over to Apple Podcasts, rate, review, subscribe. We appreciate that as well. Always fun to hear from you guys. But until next time, we'll see y'all.